This presentation is going to be a discussion of the life and works of Kwame Nkrumah, African liberation fighter and the first president of Ghana. The topics that are going to be discussed in this presentation are Nkrumah's biological timeline and also Nkrumah's ideologies, which include Pan-Africanism, anti-imperialism, and Marxist socialism. Then we're going to look at the political downfall and some of his famous publications. And finally, we'll end off with his influence on the international political economy today. Born Francis Niwa Kofi Nkrumah in 1909 and later died in 1972, Nkrumah was raised in a rural village in the then Gold Coast, present-day Ghana. Early in his career, he was trained and worked as a teacher in Accra. He then pursued further study at Lincoln College in Pennsylvania in 1935 to learn more about anti-colonial resistance movements and ideologies, including Black nationalism and Pan-Africanism. After 10 years in the United States, Nkrumah enrolled in a PhD in anthropology at the London School of Economics. Throughout his overseas tertiary education, Nkrumah was very involved in advocacy for solidarity across the African freedom struggle and organized politically as a student activist. Between 1945 and 1947, Nkrumah was the General Secretary of the West African National Secretariat in Manchester. In 1947, he was elected Regional Secretary of the Pan-African Federation and participated in the 5th Pan-African Congress, which marked a significant turning point towards national independence in Africa and the British West Indies. Nkrumah returned to the Gold Coast in 1947 and went on to establish the Ghana National College, now known as the University of Ghana. In 1949, Nkrumah founded the Convention People's Party, CPP, and spearheaded the campaign to challenge the British Empire through non-violent civil disobedience and industrial strike, what he referred to as positive action. He would later be arrested by the colonial government in 1950 and released in 1951 due to CPP's contestation of legislative elections. In 1952, Nkrumah became Ghana's first prime minister, and upon receiving independence in 1957, was elected the first president of Ghana. Now we'll take a look at Nkrumah's ideologies. So he identified himself as a Marxist socialist and later would identify as a scientific socialist. Nkrumah sought to illustrate the imperialist and exploitative dynamics of the forces of global capitalism, drawing on the theoretical insights of Marx. Nkrumah argued that African socialism would only be possible under a politically united and socially and economically integrated Africa. This position was formalized under Nkrumah's vision of a United States of Africa. The ruling party CPP initiated a 5-year plan which included rapid industrialization, free primary education, developing institutions of higher learning, improving access to health care, and various development projects. Policies that Nkrumah is most known for include nationalization of economic sectors, specifically the cocoa industry, through the New Deal for Cocoa. He was passionate about a policy of Africanization and the Pan-Africanism, which led to better career opportunities for Ghanaians. He also led the construction of the Akosombo Dam, which is a hydroelectric dam for the purposes of scaling up the electrification for industrial and domestic purposes. However, in order to finance his project, Ghana had to enter into the largest post-Second World War loan with IMF to date. Unfortunately, the rapid industrialization strained the Ghanaian economy and led to borrowing of foreign aid. Nkrumah became increasingly authoritarian, and early in 1964, Ghana became a one-party state, with Nkrumah declaring himself as the life president of both nation and party. Alongside this were chronic food shortages and corruption scandals, which inspired a general strike and several assassination attempts on Nkrumah. And in 1966, he was therefore overthrown in a military coup. Some of Nkrumah's most notable published articles include Africa Must Unite, which is a book that was published in 1963, where Nkrumah traces the effects of colonialism and warns of the dangers of imperialism in trying to break up Africa into small, weak states. In 1965, he followed up with a book called Neo-Colonialism, The Last Stage of Imperialism, which built up on the ideas from Africa Must Unite. He describes his views on neo-colonialist economic control of the African continent and includes chapters on imperialist finance, monopoly capitalism, mining interests, diamond groups, and economic pressures. The theoretical and political value that Nkrumah's works add to Marxian political economy is his explanation of why the capitalist mode of production is global, why and how this mode is connected to the economies of regions like Africa, which are outside the heartlands of capitalism, and why and how this connection is the main cause of underdevelopment in Africa and other peripheral areas. Finally, his influence on the international political economy is that as Ghana was one of the first countries to receive independence, it thus inspired independence movements throughout Africa, pushing an anti-imperialist agenda. Nkrumah spearheaded the formation of the Organization of African Unity in 1963, which was later replaced by the African Union in 1999. He also contributed to the critical perspective of the international political economy, particularly with respect to the dynamics of the capitalist global economy and how they impinge on the development in Africa. Thank you for making it to the end of my presentation. I hope you learned something new about Kwame Nkrumah, and these are just the references that I used.